Andrew, you were talking about your interest in sort of life after death and what it all means and the origin of our species.
Yeah, that stuff fascinates me so much. Anytime I hear that, my ears perk up when I'm listening to all these shows. That's one of the... I love to hear anything, if you want to tell me about what my soul is, where it goes, what happens to it, why it was made, who wants to steal it. Anything to do with my soul, I am in. I love hearing about it because I just don't believe that it's over when we die. I just don't. And I won't buy it. And I've been through all sorts of different ways of trying to all sorts of religions. I certainly was a Christian, born again 3 different times, and then that didn't feel right either. And
there you go.
I'm more of a reincarnation man.
Yeah, I have to say I've enjoyed the idea of reincarnation, and when I say I've enjoyed it, it gives it seems to be more freeing in some ways about what's possible. Now, I don't necessarily believe that if you do something bad and then you come back as like a flea or something.
Right.
I don't necessarily believe that, but it's possible that in this reality we do need to experience what it means to be different beings, like different types of beings. So what if we had to... Dolores Cannon talks about needing to explore being a rock. So maybe in your earliest incarnation, you were a rock.
That's the levels, right?
Yes, and things didn't go very fast.
Then a dog, and then right.
Then a mammal, and then maybe an insect, and then a mammal, and then a human, and then different kinds of humans.
Right.
And then throughout your lifetime as humans, if you don't get the lesson or you don't learn whatever the lesson is, it's probably something about love and forgiveness, then you got to go back and do it again.
But do you think there should be real proof that lets you know that that's exactly what happens to you? Or would it change this whole experience we're having? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Should it be revealed that we are reincarnating and you're going to get another turn and another turn and another turn? That would change your life now. So should it always be hidden? Is it always going to be hidden? Would it help or hurt it?
If you knew...
Right.
I think
it would be a game. It wouldn't be real. If you knew, it would feel like a game.
That's also kind of ties in with the original reason why you proposed this idea of a get together and discuss this stuff, because disclosure is kind of like a microcosm of what you're saying. If the government or governments came out and said, we have proof,
right?
We're not going to lie to you anymore, then that blows the cover.
Yeah.
So if the source, whether it be God, however you imagine that God to be, is actually there, and it's going to reveal itself, like that theory that somebody belongs to, if that's revealed that it's actually the truth,
right,
for everybody, then there's no real purpose anymore, is there?
Well, the jig's up.
Well, the evolution, but the evolution, we can evolve, though. I mean, it may be that, just like if you think about it, like the pyramids have sand on it, and over time they've been, just metaphorically, the sand keeps getting less and less, and it reveals more and more and more. And each time we learn a little bit more, and maybe this time we're learning more about our true existence.
Yeah.
And then maybe it elevates us to a different level. Maybe that's part of our ascension, is that maybe we are supposed to know about this, but I can't even imagine what my life would be like if I knew that I was coming back again. If I knew it for sure, my whole mindset would be completely different. But that may be what they're talking about with ascension, that that you're evolving, and maybe that's our next evolution, is we actually find out for reals, what we are, what happens.
Well, that opens up another possibility. You were talking about proof.
Yeah.
Because I know you like proof. At the same time, you're one of the most creative dudes I've ever met. And where does that come from?
I got to show you proof of that?
I've seen some proof of that. The idea behind proof is not quantum, right? When you think about, we're all walking quantum computers, if we can get scientific for a second. And so you essentially, as a quantum computer and as a master creator, are pulling your thoughts are pulling matter and creating a form. Okay? That form takes physicality at some point, whether that's a painting, a song, a something you write, a punch. It takes some sort of a form, and you can manifest things that way. Isn't that your proof? Now, I'm asking. I'm open the gray area here because
Sure.
that's your proof that
It
you
would
are
be.
a creator God.
It would be if I could 100% believe that. But every
well-
time, I could say, yeah, maybe I manifested that. But I could also say it was dumb luck, or, my buddy Joe introduced me to Charlie and it all happened. It could. I don't know.
both
It's hard
are true.
to prove that too,
Both
right?
are
Yeah.
true.
So in reincarnation,
Whether you believe or don't believe.
so in
It's true.
reincarnation, it's a linear action.
Yes.
However, your
Yes.
previous lives and your future lives are all playing out at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So, maybe a little deja vu might
Mm-hmm.
be just interference coming from one of those other.
It's like
parallel.
like a magnetic tape that you tape over and over. Remember those old VCR tapes?
Yeah.
You would tape over
Yeah,
and over and
right.
over, and
And
then
there-
there'd be ghosting.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the same
I
thing,
could see
man.
that.
It's the same thing.
That always blows my mind, the whole essence of time, and that we've made that construct. But every time somebody tries to explain it to me, it's like I can't get my head around it. If it's all happening at once, this is a big Art Bell thing too, because
Yeah.
he was nuts about time travel. The guy was a freak about it. But if it's all happening at once, how is that even possible? And why do we even get older? If it's all happening at once, why does a tree get big? Why do I have baby teeth?
Well, I think maybe this is. I've never heard this before in my life, but just you saying that, I was thinking of time and the days. Days are determined by the time the sun comes up and goes down. Or no, it doesn't come up.
The
Yeah,
Earth is
the-
revolving.
Make me sound like an
around
idiot.
the sun.
Yeah, we're going around
Revolving.
the sun,
Yeah.
and the Earth is spinning.
Yeah.
So it seems like the sun is coming up and the moon's coming up and all that, but that determines a day.
That's true, but that isn't really. Yeah, you're right. Nothing starts over.
So yeah, but okay, remember when you were a kid
That's
and you took a day and you did 50 different things,
Yeah.
with no naps,
And
with
it
barely
seemed
a
like
lunch.
It took so long.
Yeah, and summertime between
really long.
third and fourth grade was like a lifetime.
Yeah.
It was.
But just imagine being a baby, how
Right.
long a day is,
right.
or a mouse, how long a day, because they say in cat years or whatever, or dog years. So
Well, some insects only live 3 days.
Yeah, right.
And-
right.
Fly or
and
something
that
like
feels
that.
like a lifetime, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But how do you wrap that back into explaining
The
how
timeline.
time is all happening at once?
Okay, I have a thought. I think that time is happening at once, but it's on different strands. So if you take a fiber optic and there's different strands and it's carrying light, each strand carries light and it carries information, but it's different, it's separate. And I think that's how time works. And when you make a certain decision, that's on a different timeline. And so on this one timeline, you have baby teeth. On this other timeline, you're an adult. On this other timeline, you're an exotic dancer. Now that I'd like to see.
Okay,
And
so
on this-
all those lights start, all those fiber optics
Yeah.
start out at the same time,
Yeah. yeah.
or because if I'm making
And
decisions,
then reroute when you make a choice. Choice changes it.
right? But if it's all happening at once, am I a baby back here, and I'm a full adult on the
You
same?
just jump. Yeah, you just jump. And it's from strand to strand. So I don't know if that's true.
Is that
but it's
string
just
theory?
interesting.
Is that kind of part of
Actually,
string theory?
I don't know. I need to look that up.
I
I'm gonna
know
write
it
that
sounds like
down.
I'm being basic about it, but there is something to. I think string theory also has to do with frequencies. I don't know.
I'll look at that.
But it always blows my mind when you start talking about time, because we certainly did make that up. That's proven, And every
Yes.
crazy physicist
doesn't
and
exist.
all the quantum people will all say the same thing. Is
We agree that time exists, and
Yeah.
therefore it does.
But it's also like it's like an element. I heard that being said. It's
Yes.
like gravity.
Yes.
There's you can put it in equations. There's gravity, there's time,
In space.
but not time as we think of.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know. Trips me up every time.
Have you heard of? I was listening to Duncan Trussell the other day, and he was talking about Thursdayism. Have you ever heard about
No.
Thursday?
What's Thursday?
It's like any time you like wake up or whatever, you can say that your existence began last Thursday, and it started for everybody. So all your memories and everything was just. Oh, let me get this. It's last Thursday calling.
Hello. It's Thursday.
So what does that mean?
Well, it's just like there can be all these different theories, and I can't remember who it was who actually started Thursdayism, but it's like, how can you prove that it's not? You were implanted with all these memories. It's almost like simulation,
Sure.
but like.
Oh, I see.
Last
Right.
Thursday, I began, and I remember everything. But who doesn't say that? Like now, when I go to sleep tonight,
Resets.
it resets.
And I've begun fresh, but I've been instilled with all the memories leading up to then.
Yeah. Some
Is
people,
that what you mean?
Yeah.
Some people say that your DNA is where the memory is stored.
It's imprinted.
That it is not DNA is not just this biological thing. It's actually data storage.
Yeah.
And that things get activated by frequency, by light, by photonic energy.
By eating it, like
Yes.
Billy Carson
Yes.
says that if you eat a cow that was slaughtered, that
Yes.
anxiousness
In the
goes
cow.
into the DNA, and you
Yeah.
eat that,
Yes.
and you actually get more.
You consume
yeah.
whatever you consume.
You are what you eat.
Yeah, for real.
from your
all the
head
way
down, to your feet.
Yeah. Yeah, your DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The DNA storage thing's
It's-
fascinating.
Well, just like
It's cool.
mushrooms talking to each other, there's been theories that
Mm-hmm.
all plants talk to each other and communicate at some point.
Do you guys remember that movie by, I don't know if you like M. Night Shyamalan.
My
but
daughter was named after one of his movies.
No, so you don't like
Oh,
them?
there
No.
we go. Well, he did have the one film called The Happening.
Mhm.
Maybe this is a spoiler alert, but I think it happens pretty quickly, that it's the plants communicating. And they're tired of us doing what we're doing to them. And therefore they trigger their own defense response that ends up causing humans to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Or self-harm, because the plants want to be left alone. And it's very interesting when you think about that why couldn't a plant or
Sure.
any creature, but a plant, I mean, we think of plants as being, they're just dumb, they're just there, they're just inert. They're not inert.
Right.
They have energy. There's some evidence that they have emotion. At least someone would say, "Oh, it's just an instinctual response." But I don't know. I don't know if that's true. That trees have memory, and trees take care of one another. You guys have heard this, and that the forest, the blanket on the forest floor, which includes mushrooms and other fungi, support baby trees. Before the baby tree is big enough to connect to the big trees around it, the mushrooms take care. And the mushrooms and the fungi in the soil sends the signal until the baby tree is connected. If the baby tree were to get harmed, or it was a drought, and the other trees conserve water and share with each other. So tell me that that's something that
Yeah.
is inert.
Oh, wow.
And it's not the kind of sentience that we have. It's
Right.
different. But who's to say that that trees and plants aren't sentient.
They completely outnumber us. Think about how many more
Yes.
plants there are than humans.
Not
Shit,
just
they kill us. Like
number, but species.
20 to 1.
Number of species of plants.
Right.
Not
And
just-
also,
Right.
the evolution of how some plants are defense,
yes.
like poison ivy
Defensive.
and
That's right.
like thorns.
Yeah.
They're protecting that beautiful
Yes.
flower.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Wow, that's
That whole
creepy.
thing fascinates me. That whole concept just is very fascinating to me. I don't know what to do with it, but I like it. And I'm going to say something really weird here. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
you guys brace yourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's now time to get weird.
it's now time to get weird.
Hey, I'm listening. I'm just going to go mess with these lights real quick.
Okay. What if we humans did not have to eat food? Plants don't eat food. Plants get their energy
From the sun.
from the sun. The chlorophyll that they have pulsing through their veins are what converts sunlight into energy. We don't have chlorophyll.
Much better.
Oh my
Jason.
goodness. Yes. The chlorophyll is their food. Is their factory that creates the food. They don't have all this complex plumbing that we do to convert different foodstuffs. So I don't know. This is going to sound strange, but do plants poop? I don't even know. They don't poop, do they?
Plants poop?
They drip. They drip like moisture, but I don't know if they aspirate.
I don't think they do. Do
I
they?
don't think they poop. Jason,
Do
do you know if
plants
plants poop?
Well,
I imagine it being like fish poop. Don't you?
It's kind
Even
of
though they
ephemeral.
don't, isn't it? They just kind of fall off the.
I
ephemeral.
think what they do is they shed.
Leaves and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's true.
Is
enough.
that pooping?
I mean, look at when autumn comes.
Yeah. Right.
But I mean, that's more like a regeneration.
But isn't that what shitting is? You're defecating
Shedding.
your nutrients that you're digesting. So when
True.
a tree digests, it takes a long time, a whole season,
It
Right.
does.
for all that water and
It's
shit to
just
come out.
slow. It's just slow. Like in The Lord of the Rings, when the trees get pissed off
Oh.
because Sauron is burning them down, and they finally get mad. And remember the trees, and they're very
Yeah.
slow, and it
Yeah.
takes them such a long time to
loved
come
that
to a
part.
decision.
I loved that part. I loved
Yes.
how it was illustrated. I enjoyed that.
love that. It was amazing. But that gave me pause to think about the trees as an entity, like not just a spirit, but like a sentience. And when you look at trees, sometimes they look like faces,
Oh yeah.
or they look like they're
But we're
they're
programmed
frozen
that way
in
too,
time.
though.
Well, I know, but don't they also sometimes look, if you see a tree that's like at the edge of the water, and it
Yeah,
looks like
arms are out.
it's like holding the water,
Right.
But actually, it's
Just cool.
like holding onto the land, trying not to fall in.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I realize it's called anthropomorphizing when we put
Yeah.
human traits onto
Yeah, when
something
we-
that's not human. I realize that.
Right.
But that's kind of the gray area that
But-
we're exploring
Right.
today.
Also, check out the difference between land properties versus sea properties, and also think of the atmosphere properties, which goes beyond our planet. So
It's like different gradations, really. The particle sizes change, as the gravity and the pressure changes. Same with the ocean. The salinity and all the different aspects change as you get deeper versus when you're
I saw an article the other day that said that this person found a rock in their yard or whatever, and it turned out to be like a meteor or a meteorite
yeah.
or whatever.
Oh, sure.
And I'm like, dude, just think about how precious that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How rare it is, right?
Compared
Yeah.
to like titanium or gold or whatever.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
And if that thing's alive, what has it seen?
yeah.
I mean, if it is a being, then where did it come from and what did it see?
Or even if it was just like, stone or just busted up planet.
Right.
Because what is an asteroid? What is a comet?
We don't know.
It's just shit out there in this.
It was busted up planets. That's a funny way to say it.
Or it's a busted up lunchbox that an alien had in a spaceship, and
You don't know, right?
Right.
You don't know. Well, I'm actually wearing a piece of meteorite.
I got one on too.
You do?
Yeah.
shit.
Got my moldavite.
That's it. That's
That's
what
what
this
you got?
is. Yeah,
I didn't know.
moldavite.
That's funny. I got
It's supposed
this
to have
moldavite ring.
healing, calming properties.
Yeah.
Why do all these crystals have the same thing?
It's
I
funny.
want
think
to. I
they're
have them all
different.
around my
I've got
office.
this.
But
Oh, you've got a selenite tower. I like selenite. This moldavite
That's
actually feels warm. It's probably got some radiation. I have my big hunk of burning rose quartz here.
rose quartz.
Yeah, I love this
What
stone.
is
It's so
what's
calming.
that supposed to be?
It's basically the love stone. Just
You know what I was thinking the other day? So, you know how oh God, I think about this all the time. Like baseball cards when I was a kid. If I only had, the original Don Mattingly or whatever, and I had them all when I was a kid, but you
Yeah.
just throw those cards away.
you don't care about them then because
Yeah.
they're everywhere.
Yeah, but you know how, as you age, you realize that you had them at one point. What if all of a sudden crystals, they found out all this really exotic shit about crystals and that they're incredibly valuable. They store information, whatever, and we have
Yeah.
crystals. I have a whole cabinet
Yeah, me
of
too.
crystals. I'd be rich
Right?
because they figured out something about crystals. It'd be like baseball cards. And I own them all, and we just owned them all because they were cheap and they were fun, and we
pretty.
like to think about them.
Attracted
Pretty,
to 'em.
yep. And by the off chance that they really are giving out some great energy, I want to have that. And then all of a sudden we find out that they're all full of information, and we pop a little laser in it,
Yeah.
and
It
we
tells
can
us
hit the
something.
whole universe story will be told to us, and we have a whole drawer full.
I know. Did you guys see the Superman movie? This was the old one back with Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
When they were in
that's
the Fortress of Solitude.
Yep.
And he put those crystals in
Yeah.
the little thing, and it told poetry and different things. Like that
That's
was
where
in
I
the
must have
80s,
got
you
that.
guys. That was in the 80s, you guys. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's cool. But like, I didn't think about it, right?
Yeah.
And it's not until recently, like the last 10 years or so, that I've really thought about these things that are crystals. They must be doing something. They amplify us energy. They do
The subtle
amplify
energies,
They
the things
do.
that we don't track or measure or
Yeah.
understand, right?
Yeah, they're an amplifier. So what if they're amplifying the Earth's energy? And well, let's assume they are. Why? Why? I don't know why. I'm asking. I don't know, but they are amplifiers, and they're used in science a lot. Crystals are
Well, didn't
used
you
to
have some sort
to
of
vibrate
story
the,
where you
to-
knew a guy that shot a laser through a thing
Yeah.
and something happened?
Yeah, I mean, it basically, when you do ultrasonic technologies, you put a current through a crystal, and the crystal vibrates and makes the current vibrate higher, so that if you attach that to a drill bit or something like that, you can cut through, harder and harder materials with that drill bit that the drill bit couldn't handle otherwise, because the crystal has raised the frequency.
It's kind of like diamond
Yes.
tips.
But it's not.
No,
Is
it's
it? Is that?
frequency. No, it's frequency.
But it's
versus
done
hardness.
with frequency.
Done
So
with
it's just because
frequency.
it's near it, and you're projecting something through
You
it.
put the current through it, and then you capture the energy back into a drill bit or something.
Okay.
And then that's why you're able to use drill bits to cut through harder materials. And it does it seamlessly, right?
yeah.
Because it's a higher frequency than the material that you're cutting through. So
There's
it's
so much shit that blows my
It's
mind.
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
Things we don't
love it.
understand.
Yeah,
That just happen. I mean,
That's
it's
right.
magic all over the place.
there's
but we
magic
just,
everywhere.
yeah,
I feel so. That's why I'm here.
I think so too.
I'm just like,
Well, you're also talking about like crystals and their value. You're placing value on something. That's something that humans also
Yeah.
do.
yeah,
like
they
that.
do.
Other species of, even gorillas don't really put value in anything other than their time. And so all this fiat currency that we have, which
Oh,
is just
man.
paper.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
In
just
God we trust. Everybody else pay cash.
it's just paper. But like listening to I forget where I heard this, but like currency. It's all like fluid. It's
Yes.
moving like,
Like
the bank.
Water.
The bank of a river. Currency is current.
Oh, I know who you were listening to. Was he an older guy?
Probably.
Man, had a captivating voice. Much older guy. And he did that with almost everything. He said there was a word, and then he went off on that word, and he built this whole story around it. I've heard him a couple times.
Like what people
Wish I knew
used to
his name.
use to pay each other was salt. And that's where we got salary.
That's him. Yeah.
It was burl lives.
Well, currency is
wasn't
just a
Merlin.
concept, right?
Yeah.
But it's like you're placing value. Like if I want to buy this car,
Yeah.
it cost me 6 years
Yes.
and whatever.
This many
doing
hours of labor.
my worth
energy.
is
Energy
such and
outlay.
such amount an hour
Right.
or a week
Right.
or whatever. That's how much I'm worth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
It is
my
an exchange. I mean, this money magic system that we're in is an exchange for your life force, in exchange for this thing or this material thing that you're buying, or whether it's a house or a car or a theater ticket or whatever. You're exchanging your life force for it. At the end of any
Right.
day, that's what you're doing. And when you're young, you realize you think you have all the life force in the world, right? Because you do. And then when you get older, you're like, well,
That's a good way to put it. You're exchanging your life
You
for us.
are.
Right, because it's
You are.
there's more you're going to have to output of your
That's
own
it.
self.
yeah.
I mean, to get the money, to
That's
do the
right.
thing, to
That's
buy the
right.
deal. So really,
Whether it's greenbacks or salt
right.
or pounds sterling, it doesn't
It's
matter.
still a promise that you're going to have to put
Yeah.
something into it.
That's
right?
it. That's it. It's really fascinating that, we think that this world we live in is so solid, but it's founded on these kinds of principles that we just take for granted now. Is we've just incorporated into who we are, and we don't think about where it must have come from.
Well, like I was listening to somebody, I think it was somebody on the Gaia network that was talking about the timeline of the Earth and how people, even scientists, like the most forward-thinking scientists, believed that the Earth was probably about 7,000 years old, right? Or 10,000, something like around 7 to 10,000.
We're talking when back in the day?
No,
Or now?
just like 15, 20 years ago. Like, maybe not all scientists, but some actually believe. Not, I don't say, let me rephrase that. Humans.
Oh, okay. With that, yeah.
Humans were.
That story's being told differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And now they're finding artifacts that were even, so even like your scientists, like your archaeologists that believe that it was such a, they're even being, I was watching a show called, it was like the Tomb of Sakari. It was on, it's on Netflix. It's really fascinating. It's these people digging out these tombs in Egypt, and they're finding like this pharaoh. The name Sakari, I think it was a pharaoh, but like it was just being educated on how they treated things back then compared to, it was like that culture was so completely bizarre compared to that motorcycle that we just heard drive down the road.
What do you mean, like what they put in their caskets?
Yeah,
or what
this
was precious
guy,
to them?
he was like a king, and he had his name in his tomb so many times that
Really?
he wanted to make sure that anybody who came in there knew for certain that it was King Sakari. Wow. Or whatever he was.
And
he was a pharaoh.
Didn't they used to, like, let's say he had a favorite horse. They would kill the horse and put it in there with him
Yeah. Yeah. And in his tomb,
for the afterlife.
you would go into his tomb and like these people went into his tomb, and there's these different tunnels. So, and this wasn't like an abnormal thing. There's these different tunnels where this tunnel was somebody else that they buried in there, and this is not. I mean, this is not their tomb, and it might be like his nephew or something.
Sure.
And then this tunnel that went down. It's not a tunnel, but it's like a cavern.
Passage.
Yeah, a passage. Catacomb that went down. And but like my point is, I don't even remember what my point was, but
No.
it's fascinating.
I think the Egyptians believed in reincarnation
They
to some
did.
degree, right? But they believed in a journey. It was you had to pass through all these things, and you were almost in physical form when you left. I mean, you left, but it maybe an astral plane kind of left, right? You were still physical.
Well, I think what they're doing is they're taking like all that stuff that they're putting on their walls
Goes with
and stuff, goes with them.
But what's with the name? I don't want to bring 100 nameplates. What are they going to do for me?
I don't know. I think that had to do with the ownership.
Ego
of that.
freak.
Because they unearthed this other tomb, and it was just a small little tunnel, and it was like the same kind of, like they pulled out this body, this tomb that looked like, like the Thing and everything, like King Tut,
Sure.
is like it had a face and the little feet sticking up, and they opened it right there.
Whoa, yeah.
You need to watch it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that.
No.
Those things were cursed.
They
typically.
I could see that.
There's a lot
Night
of
at
folks,
the museum.
the very
Yeah.
earliest Egyptologists and folks who did exploration, many of them died when. But
Yeah.
I will say that I don't think it's some ancient curse necessarily. I think it's pathogens that were sealed up.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
didn't, microbes getting into the lungs that killed the people. So it's a very real
It's like
kind
you're open
of.
to asbestos.
Yeah, it's just the same. Yeah, let's 10,000-year-old dust. Like, let's breathe that in with all the viruses it must have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they actually
King's
did this right
asbestos.
when Ebola happened.
Sure. Well, with respect to the
King's
Egyptian
asbestos
thing,
tomb.
very nice. The idea of naming things and trying to control things and trying to place your human value on something that's ephemeral, like
Explain ephemeral.
life.
You've said that, and you've also said something sentient.
sentient.
Now, I've heard those a lot, but I'd like to know the definitions more or less.
Okay. Well, ephemeral
probably
is
an
something
easy one
that
to
you
everybody.
kind of can't grasp. It's floating. It's out
like
there.
ether?
It's ether, but ephemeral. That's what the
But
notion
it's alive?
of it is. It's
No.
it exists, but it's not substantial. It exists in the moment and then it's gone.
Nice.
So the idea behind that, an afterlife, that the way the Egyptians appeared to have practiced it, because none of us remember, I'm
Right.
sure, was that they took what was really a concept and they turned it into a physical thing. Like, when I wake up after I die, I'm going to have all my stuff.
Right.
Well, I think we know now that you don't get to take your stuff.
Right.
Right? You take what's in you, which could be, what would that be? Your spirit, your astral body.
Yeah, well, that's
That's what you can take with you, but not the physical stuff you can't keep.
Yeah, like the sentient part of that is what
Yeah.
messes us up, because that's what gets us so stuck to our bodies.
Yes.
That's why it's so morbid to, mess with a body.
I can't stand that. It's a meat suit. I like,
Yeah.
hey, somebody calls it a
Container.
meat suit. A container, that's a nice way to say it. A vessel.
A
The Bible
vessel,
talks
right.
about a vessel. It's your space suit.
yeah.
It's like your earthly space
Meat
suit.
suit's perfect.
Yeah,
I've heard
that
it.
one works
Well,
too.
the Greys, actually, that's been documented. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been told many, many times through abductions that we're called containers.
Yeah. Yep.
We're
I think that's
bag of bones.
fascinating.
Containers for the
containers.
spirit, like
For the soul.
like Avatar.
There's
Yeah.
a new. Have you seen the commercial for the new one?
No.
Oh yes, I can't wait.
Is it going to be? I watched that
It's gonna
like
be
10
epic.
times.
What is it like? The last one was what? Was it like?
2001 or something?
Oh,
like
it's like
2007?
Was that before
20
CG?
They pioneered a whole new way of making movies with that film, but
Yeah.
I too am looking forward to what that's going to teach us. Because the spirituality contained in the movie really, I'd say, advanced our understanding of these spiritual concepts, some of which we're talking about right now.
All gray areas.
Yes, great.
Yeah, no doubt. All this is great.
Great.
And even if 1/10 of this stuff is true, it is so far out from normal day thinking that even 3% is worth it. You know, everything we're talking about is a big cloud of
Yeah.
kind of consciousness.
Possibility.
Yeah, but some of it, you know, I just think there's so much more that we do not want to, we don't want to focus on, we don't want to face it,
Right.
and we certainly don't want it to interrupt our lives.
Because there's so many distractions.
Yeah, and it's easy to go there. Like, I get that when I talk about, certainly when I talk about the alien thing with somebody that's new, I get that glaze right away. It's like, I have currently shut off. I'll be back when you're done fucking talking about this. You know what I mean? And I know to not
curiosity.
I know to get rid. I don't labor on it. I'm like, okay, well, that's one of those. And I don't even go there, and 5 seconds later, on to something else. But it almost seems like it's like, time to shut off. I was programmed not to think of this.
Well, I think
Non-player character.
Right. Yeah, right.
Right.
In PC.
Yeah.
I think in this day and age, there's a difference between like simple-minded, narrow-minded, and open-minded.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like,
Did you say
Preaching good
simple,
now.
narrow, and open?
like you could have
You know, that's cool.
an engineer working at working like popping out all these like you know, I don't know, 3D printing things, whatever.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that's all they think about every day. They're always thinking about the next thing. Even when they're still working on a new one, they're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I got to write this down. They're not focusing on anything else other than that.
Right.
Simple-minded is somebody who doesn't care about anything.
Maybe like this is a wonderful thing. Some of the best people I've ever met are like people with Down syndrome.
Yeah.
They're so loving. They're just there.
Yeah.
They're
And it's
happy.
like, I mean, I guess you could take it to be a degradation to be called a simple-minded person.
Oh man, I don't think about that I might have used to think that way, but I don't anymore. I think it's a gift.
Yeah, to be simple-minded, not to
Yeah.
give too much care and things.
But
and
is it a gift if I had autism and I can't tell you how I'm feeling? Is that what
Oh,
you
well,
mean?
that's different.
No,
That's not simple-mindedness. That's unable to communicate.
you're thinking
scenario.
simple almost as in ignorant to it and
Yeah,
blissfully ignorant.
Blissfully, yeah, that's
Blissfully ignorant
yeah,
to it. You're
simple-minded.
simple, right? I'm
And
going down
that
this-
might be somebody who's like, I'm just here to fucking build this thing here,
yeah,
man.
and
I don't
enjoying
want
the shit out of it.
Like, okay, there might be a UFO there, but there might not. Let's clock out and go have a beer.
Right,
You know, it's
right,
like, and then you have open minds that when you hear something like me, I whenever somebody says something, I look it up.
yeah, curious mind. So that's
Yeah.
a different. I think that's like
I do think curiosity
Curi-
separates us.
well, but I think that also separates the human race from other things.
Yeah.
We're so curious that we're constantly creating new. I mean, as a species,
Yep.
we're never still.
No.
We're always curious about the next thing. As soon as the iPhone whatever comes out, the next iPhone whatever's being worked on. We're always like that, which is our evolution. Whether it's been kind of made, we've been made that way to be this kind of production machine.
Yeah.
But you have to be curious to be that. If I wasn't curious, I'd be fine with this my whole life. This is my phone. I don't care. I don't care if you upgrade it. But I'm curious about what new shit.
Isn't that the whole
I think
Garden
it-
of Eden thing, though? Curiosity is what had us fall from.
Well,
Yeah.
in that story.
Well, yes, I realize that story is an allegory for what you're talking about, Andrew.
Yeah,
Which
that's
is
right.
once we had the tree of knowledge, or is that
It wasn't
curiosity? It wasn't enough. Once we had curiosity, perfection wasn't enough. The fact that everything was perfectly balanced and in harmony. No, we needed contrast. We needed disease. We needed evil. We needed pain. We needed suffering to learn. And I'd say whether that idea of Eden and the fall was real or not, we've been in suffering mode ever since.
Yeah.
Why is it that the best creativeness I've ever had with poetry and the creativity that I perform has been through suffering and pain, and
Honesty.
not love?
It's because of honesty. I
Yeah,
think you finally
maybe.
get honest. You shed those layers of bullshit.
Maybe.
And when you do that, you can finally get the core to something great.
Maybe that's true.
It's certainly true.
That's
I know
true.
it's true for me. When things have happened in my life and they've been rough, I need it more.
But you get it through suffering far more than that love,
Yeah.
blissful state.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately.
it just seems to be the way we're made. I don't know if it's possible for us to shift that. And if we do have an ascension moment, such as what you mentioned earlier, the word ascension, I want to know what that means, but I don't. I'm curious about what that means. I'd like to try to define it, at least for us right now. But to the point is, like, what does that look like? What is me getting more fuel from love and bliss and joy than suffering? I will admit to you that I'll say a few years ago, before COVID, I really had a hard time feeling joy. I really struggled with it. I tried. I did I'm going to say something I'm grateful for every day. I had a journal and I had a prompt, and I tried and I tried, and I didn't last very long. And I was just in a blah place. And I couldn't find the joy in my life, and I was not creative. I was just like doing stuff. I was just doing. And I didn't want to be doing, but I did it anyway. And it was hard to get out of that cycle. And I'll just say that when COVID hit, it really did stop that cycle for me. That ended up being a positive thing. And now I'm starting to get to a point where I can really feel joy instantly. There are a few things that do it for me. One of those things is walking in nature, petting my dog.
And you know what joy means? You feel what joy means?
Yes. It has a physical place in my body.
Yeah.
When I'm feeling joy, it's just above the heart, and then it rises up through my throat, around the thyroid area. My face gets flushed.
Wow.
I feel
You
sort
get
of a tightness in my
tingly
throat.
right here?
I get tingly right in the front of my head. And I might tear up a little bit from just kind of the joyfulness, and maybe there's a few butterflies in the tummy, but it's mostly heart and above when I feel joy. And I had it spontaneously happen to me actually just last week. I'm on a freaking airplane, of all places, not a place you usually feel joy for humanity. And I don't know what came over me, guys, but I just had this incredible blissful feeling, and all these emotions and these feelings that I'm sharing with you came through.
Wow.
And it lasted for both the duration of the flight, so it was a few hours. And I started writing during that time, like, because I had my phone with me, so I was just writing on my phone.
It came over you? It
just
wasn't
came
something
over
you were
me.
thinking of?
No, I wasn't thinking about it. It actually took me by surprise. And
I wonder if anybody else in the plane felt the same thing.
Yeah, right. If you rubbed off on other people.
I
Or if it
wonder.
was something getting piped through the...
Or if somebody else rubbed off on me, like
Give 'em some joy.
If they were creating the field,
Yeah.
the
yeah,
field of
right,
energy
right,
that was giving
right.
me the joy, because I have to say it came at me sideways.
Yeah.
But I don't know, but I just wanted to share that because I think that I've in my life been more creative through suffering than joy, which is why so much of the music that we listen to now, I'll say pop music, is it's all about heartbreak and the thing I didn't get. And
Right.
there's some that's about triumph, but the triumph is still about the negative.
Yeah.
And I beat that shit into
I'll
submission.
get over you. You
What-
can't take me
Exactly.
down.
It's that kind of triumph.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, I have a really hard time listening to music because I don't find it uplifting. I find it to be sort of low vibrational.
I'll give you some
Yeah.
I'll give you some stuff.
How about, James Brown is incredibly positive. You know, at night he was beating his wife, but he had very positive songs, you know, Get Up to Get Down, you know, everything's like, you know, everything. Yeah. Yeah, but at night, you know, it's,
Well,
what a cunt.
Coked out of his fucking brain.
Right. Right.
God, I love
Yes.
that guy.
Then
Yes,
we used to
James
have, we used to do James Brown
I'm
a lot.
so
in the
cool that
studio.
you need to come over here and put a cape on me.
He was supposed to be a pain in the ass. Like he was, it's like he wouldn't let him quit. And I had a friend and we used to paint all the time to James Brown. It was like, painting to James Brown is great because it just makes you move and you stay alert. We knew all the song had all.
It makes you think. You're thinking one step ahead of where
Yeah.
your brush is going to
Get
go.
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
scene like a sex machine.
But
Get
then,
on
but it's
up.
funny because we used to always say like, "What is everybody else saying in the back?" That's the rest of the crew.
Right.
You know, like, "All right, James,
They're annoyed.
we'll get
as
up and
hell.
get down once again." You know, it's kind of
Oh
like,
my God.
"Come on, James, are we done with this song?" You know, because he repeats stuff so many times. Like he'll do it 14 times before the song is
Got to
out.
go to the bridge.
It was-
Take me to the bridge.
Yes, it's the fucking bridge. We know where the fucking bridge is. We would just constantly repeat what was the other musicians were saying to him.
That's very funny. Well, I know there's good uplifting music. I guess I was just making a
Yeah,
statement
yeah.
about how creativity. I want more creativity to come from love. When you learn about Da Vinci, and Botticelli and all some of those other artists, the things they created. Oh my goodness. Where was their creativity coming from? What well were they drawing from?
I think
Was
it
it
was
love?
source.
Was it all? Yes, I think it
think
was
it was-
direct from source,
Yeah,
right?
It wasn't any of that. I think it was just like, well, Michelangelo used to say he saw it in the stone before he carved it.
Yes.
He was given it.
Yes.
He was given it and he used it. He just, and then I think in that moment when you're doing it, it's almost nothing. It's almost not hot, cold, happy, sad.
It
It's
just
you're,
is.
You're zoned. You're
Ephemeral.
completely in zone. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
So where does it come from for you, Andrew? When you're in the zone, in the flow?
I think I felt that a lot more, say, 6 or 7 years ago. I'm
Yeah.
doing it now with a company and trying to make larger things,
Oh,
and there's a lot to
sure.
that process. And
Right.
I'd like to get back to the painting piece and the
Yeah.
sculpting, just having clay, turning it around on the table, and just constantly doing. I can get there. I can still get there, but I think there's times I've heard this before, is when you really are in the zone, like the true zone, and the zone is really connecting to source.
Yeah.
When you're creating it is when you lose track of time. And I did hours, 6, 7 hours would be gone, and I'm sitting right there, and all of a sudden this thing is made. Like I certainly had it.
Yeah.
Maybe that was
It comes and goes,
that's
but
a little
it's-
exaggerated, but maybe that truly happened, maybe a handful of times. But it allowed me to.
Do you ever
heal.
do any time lapse?
Yeah.
Do
yeah,
you? Do
yeah,
you do
yeah.
that?
I've got a couple of them.
That's
yeah.
interesting.
I'd like to
I did
see
an
it.
alien head time lapse.
Oh,
I
wanna
carved
see
it out of a. I started with a chainsaw, and I got all the way down to the clay from big piece of.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
But yeah, there's something. The other thing I noticed about art is I was real troubled. I think for a while when I was a kid, especially when I was younger and after my dad died, and I was really searching and very uptight and anxious and uneasy in my own skin. And when I started more art, when art makes you slow down, but when you have to focus down, just your eyes, small movements, and you're trying to capture something, even with reference or whatever, it forces you to get slow. It forces you to get like you start to hum
Yeah.
like a machine. You start humming, and I swear to God that painting and sculpting, it cured me, or didn't cure me. It helped me process so much stuff. The art therapy is a real thing.
A lot of space in between the thoughts.
Tons, and I was
Yeah.
able to process my life better. And you take
cool.
years and years of that, or I'm sitting there staring at something.
Yeah.
Focus.
The inside of my mind was getting cleaned up a bit.
That's a great way to say that.
It's true.
Thank you for that. That's beautiful.
And it's not to take away from the other things that you're doing, but the other things that you're doing now is more it's like more of a business management.
Yeah, that's right, and I think that's just the evolution of it.
Yeah.
I'm not to talk so much about me here,
Yeah.
but I think one thing that I take a lot of pride in the fact that I'm building something, and it's like art. My company, my little company, with all the great people that help, is like building something out of clay. But it's done
fantastic.
with people and with, with
It's on a much
situations
bigger
and meetings,
scale.
and you have to
It
Yeah.
takes a different kind of concentration and
It is.
focus.
But you know what's interesting? You were talking about this earlier. Is I can't tell you if I know when I feel joy, but I can tell you right away if I'm anxious.
Yeah.
I can tell you right away if I'm irritated,
Mad.
mad,
Yeah.
or just grumpy.
Where does
I can
mad
tell you right away.
Where does mad find you in your body? Where does mad hit you? I'll tell you where it
My
hits me.
jaw,
It hits your jaw. Yeah.
right here.
Clenching.
I get mad
Right
at
here.
it,
Yeah.
Right.
Where
Yeah.
where does mad hit you?
Like here and here.
Oh,
like
your
here.
hands, your flanks.
Yeah.
You know where it hits me? Right in my stomach.
Really?
It's like a pound, and then it starts getting hot, and then it travels up my neck, and I get hot, like really.
Your emotions do a lot of
hot.
traveling. I
They
notice.
do.
They go from one place to the
They
other. They
do.
crawl around in your neck and hit your face.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Mine will start. Yeah, it's for sure. And then my face gets red, and if I'm real pissed, I start to
Yeah.
tremble.
Yes.
Then there's that thing. Yeah. Then I get these
Yes.
eyes, and I don't know if it's just me making shit up. Like I'm gonna look tougher than you because I'm so mad. But my eyes turn into these evil fucking creatures. I look like a crazy looking, and that's a learned behavior. There's no way my eyes turn into that automatically because I'm mad. It's not like my jaws.
It's like
But I get these crazy eyes, and it must be a defense. Like, you better stay away from me.
Yeah. I would if you had
His
those
pants
eyes-
starts ripping.
I know.
It's
like the whole don't
oh
make
my
me
God,
ang-
he's like 6 foot tall.
Don't
Yeah.
make Andrew angry.
Yeah,
you wouldn't
you
like
wouldn't
him
like me.
when I'm angry.
No.
Yeah.
This has been kind of fun, huh?
Yeah.
I think we'll get a
Yeah.
rhythm. We will, won't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about. The gray areas of everything.
Yep. They're everywhere, aren't they? I think the idea behind us having a chat together is that each of us came to this moment where we want to explore things that have not been explained fully. We want to hold open a possibility that those things could be true, and at the same time that they're not true, but they're fun.
Yeah.
And I don't care if they're true or if they're not
Yep.
true. I'm not, whatever I say or present is just something I'm intrigued by. I don't need to prove it necessarily today. And I like playing with that gray area because it puts a little more magic in the world
Yeah.
than there is on the day-to-day basis.
We're not going to come at reptilians either as they are here or
like
they're-
David Icke.
Yeah. We're just going to discuss them.
Right.
Not all aliens are good. Not all of them are bad.
Yeah.
Maybe there's not aliens, but I know there's aliens.
Right.
So we're good with that. That part I know for sure. There's no gray area.
There's no gray area.
Yeah.
No, and I appreciate all the folks that have come before us who've made it okay to talk about this stuff because
Yeah.
there was once upon a time where you'd be some equivalent of burned at the stake for saying any of this stuff or even conjecturing about it. Galileo, Copernicus,
Oh, back there.
on and on. The witch trials, on and on. So
Our
I'll
own
just
government.
say our own government, yes.
Heard a lot about that.
Yeah, there's a
That's
great
right
deal of
around,
that,
yeah.
and not that it's different now, but it's not different. We're always on the edge of truth, always on the edge of discovery that upsets the status quo and the power structure. Whenever you're pushing on the squishy belly of the power structure, they don't like it. They don't like it.
Right.
And I don't know who they are, but I don't need to know who they
Right.
are. It doesn't matter, right? It's they as a thought form.
They ain't fucking here. That's what it is.
They is a thought form. They is a concept.
Do you want to just briefly go through some of the topics that we've come up with that we might be discussing in
Oh my
future?
Yeah.
You want me to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And you guys chime. All right.
I have it sitting on my. I should know it. I have it sitting on
Chime.
my computer at the shop. I look at it all the time.
So one of them is sort of creepy technology. Like
Implants?
weather technology, implants that leads to artificial intelligence, and what that could mean for us. We also talked about, the very biggest one is, are we alone in the universe?
Yeah, right.
And, we've heard a lot on YouTube. I'm going to blame YouTube for this. And Art Bell, of course, who I adore as well, about, different types of aliens. And I say aliens. I don't even actually like that word. I think extraterrestrials, yes, and different
other entities?
Different species, yes.
That's another one.
That's right. There's lots of ways to say it. So basically, are we alone in the universe? Then, of course, Atlantis and Lemuria and ancient civilizations and what role those might have played.
I'm going to have to do a little studying for that one.
Yes.
I know it in a roundabout way, but I certainly couldn't put it in a timeline.
Yeah, and explain it to someone else, like Sumeria, Egypt, and the pyramids and some of that. And then there's the idea of the precession of the equinox and the time cycles on our planet. And you may have heard a little bit about the Kali Yuga, which is the time period we're supposedly in right now, which is a period of destruction, so that we can create anew this world that we live in, and create a new reality. But in order to create a new reality, you have to destroy completely the old one.
So is this ascension? Is this part of ascension?
Or
is this leveling up?
It is ascension, but it's probably just basic creative destruction.
Right.
Because
so this
everything
is where
goes
we all
in
die?
cycles.
That's what we're going to talk about?
Well,
yeah.
Maybe it's not we die. Maybe it's we die to the old way of being.
Oh, okay. I can
And what can emerge from that. It doesn't mean a physical death necessarily, but it does mean a spiritual death of the old ways of being.
Isn't this the Hopis too?
Yes.
Didn't the Hopis go down this path?
Which is perfect, because the next topic is shamanism.
Oh, shamanism.
Shamanism, and we have to talk about psychedelic substances in relationship to shamanism as well, so they're often hand in glove. I think we could also talk about certainly unidentified flying objects, or
UAPs.
Yes, UAPs. The government's trying to call them something else. I would say we've already kind of touched on frequency and sound and heart resonance, the heart brain.
That's where Henry goes there quite a bit about the idea that I just love. I can only remember, I'll go back in, but I loved how he was talking about that your heart, it has brain cells. Yeah. That's just fascinating.
Yes. William Henry?
Yeah, William Henry. And it really does. It's proven that it has brain cells in your heart.
Well, sure.
It thinks.
Well, I think
what's your heart think?
We are superhuman. We're just, so the idea that we're oppressed, our ideas are oppressed.
Yeah.
So we have a greater potential than we're currently seeing. So things like remote viewing and channeling.
Yep.
What about the mound builders and the race of giants that we've heard about?
And we live right next to it.
Yes.
The Indian mounds.
Different types of myths. Yes, field trip. Different types of myths and time travel.
Want to take a ride?
The idea of soul entrapment. The moon and the soul entrapment. Inner Earth.
Yep. Love it.
There's just hybrids, human, reptilian hybrids.
Inner Earth, there's so much in there. Yeah, I don't know if, I'm just saying.
Did you hear what he said?
There's so much in there.
That's a good bumper sticker. Inner Earth, there's so much in there.
But there is. I don't hear enough about that. I'd like to go down there.
Down that rabbit hole.
Right.
And then I guess, there's some current things like, we may not want to go into this, but the Great Reset and some of the current
political
exopolitics goings on and sort of the gray areas. And then there's two other things I hope we get to, and one of those is the Hermetic texts. Again, that's sort of ancient civilizations, but I'd like to do a series on the Hermetic texts and discuss that, as well as the Law of One. So there's many more topics. These were just a few on our list, and I know you guys added to the list, but my goodness, y'all, I hope that you're up for this journey with us, because there's a lot of gray area.
We can spotlight our own stories in future episodes and
Yeah.
whatnot, and what brought us here. Because I know we were going to do that in this episode, but it's cool.
it's-
We didn't.
Right,
We're
right.
just talking
Yeah,
now.
but I'd like to get deeper into why each of us are exploring
Into
these
what we're
things.
into, yeah. Yeah, this is kind of a stream of consciousness, so I think it's good. It's also good for us to see how this is, flowing.
Oh yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be entertaining, to say the least, and informative.
Well, hopefully just not boring.
And we'll have like the comment sections open
Yeah.
for people to, we'll probably broadcast live somehow,
Yeah.
future episodes, so we can comment along with other people.
We can intersperse things along the way too, like take little breaks and something else is in there, and then come back to it.
Right,
Yeah.
like we talked about movies. So there's so
Yeah.
many movies we could highlight, do a quick
Yeah.
a 2-minute blast
Yeah.
on certain movies and our take on it, and we'd have to plan that ahead, but
Yeah.
I think we should do that.
And some of the documentaries, that's where I get a lot of my stuff.
I'm
it's-
so like out of. I'm sorry to
Go ahead.
stuff. Like when I go to watch, you got all these streaming, Netflix and,
Right,
and
everybody.
platforms. Like, I'm all out. I'm out of content.
Because you're voracious.
I'm like,
You mean
I'm
you've
looking,
watched it all?
No, I've watched the stuff that I can bear. Like I'll throw
Yeah.
something on there, and it's like 5 minutes into it, I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be my ADD, but it's definitely like it's hard
No.
to pull me into something if it's not. You know what I mean? In the first 5 minutes, if I don't got
Yeah.
you, I don't got you.
I've turned some stuff off too that I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
I might have liked this in the 80s, but I can't take it now.
Give me another Fire in the Sky.
Yeah.
Give me another Close Encounters
No
of the Third
shit.
Kind.
I agree 100%. There
Signs.
needs to be more of that.
That's the movie that my daughter's
I
named
like
after.
Signs.
Yeah.
I loved that film. It's contaminated.
It has amoebas in it.
There's so much bullshit in the UFO documentaries, and even the voiceovers are horrible, and the footage is shitty, and the guys are stupid.
They're trying
There
to
is
be
so
too
much.
gripping. and
Right,
you're
right,
like,
right,
come on, some
right,
of this
right.
stuff's just not
In a
gripping.
world that
That's right.
it's all that, which it doesn't need to be.
No.
Finally, a couple things have come out that have been really refreshing, really well done, well produced stuff.
Yes.
What are those ones?
Did you
the
see-
Phenomenon, what
Oh,
seemed
yeah.
good, but what was the most recent one? I know Jimmy Church was in it.
Disclosure. No, just kidding.
No, what was the name of it?
No, he said no.
Stephen Greer's stuff.
Oh, well, yeah, that's good.
Let's go walk around my estate for 45 minutes.
Yeah, let me push a bale of hay and tell you how fun that was.
Yeah.
That was weird.
So, did you guys see Corey Good's graphic novel?
No, is it recent?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it anime?
It's actually pretty nice. So I'll bring it in so you can. I'll bring it in so you can look at it.
No
So you can look
kidding.
at it. It's nice actually. It basically is his origin story.
Who is Corey Good?
Corey Good is a guy that I learned about on Gaia in 2014. Oh my word, that's a long time ago. And he told his story about
was
being a
it?
member of the secret space program.
Yep.
And he was a child empath that
It's
was
in the 20 and back.
in the 20 and back program, where he spent many years in doing services for the government in space, and then he was age regressed back to the 5 minutes after the time he was taken originally. And so he's regained some of his memories. They wiped his memory, and he's regained some of those memories back. And the graphic novel tells the origin story, and then a series of those memories are detailed in there. And it's eye-opening about. It's an alternative view of what it means to be a member of planet Earth.
Yeah.
It's an alternate view, and
It is
it's some of it's
interesting.
very disturbing.
Yeah.
The first time I ever heard Corey Good talk about the moon as basically a giant spaceship and not a celestial body as we've thought for many millennia. So some of these things you're not ready for. And I guess I'll say in general, the reason I like the way we're talking about this stuff is we're going to introduce it gently.
Yeah.
Because I know there were some times when I was reading about this stuff that I had to just stop because it was so jarring to my reality.
Right.
I had to take some time and integrate it. I got really irritable. Did this happen to you guys?
Yeah.
Did you get irritable when you first when it was the moon thing really did it for me? Because I loved the moon. I like looking at it. I like, all those
And
things
just to
about the
think
moon.
about it as a different.
Yeah.
Oh.
And to think about it as this physical object that
Made of
somebody
cheese.
put there. And I just
Feel
I don't know.
deceived. You feel
I felt
fooled.
I felt deceived, and I felt like some of the magic was gone from this existence. And I think that some of the stuff we're going to share will be equal parts disclosure and magic. It's going to be both because
And you have the opportunity to call bullshit anytime.
Always.
Because
always.
I like to think of these as some great movie I'm listening to.
Yes.
But then there's
Yes.
some things that really make me think. It's funny how Corey Goode is an unbelievable story. And that's the first one of the secret space program that I actually thought this
Yes.
guy could really be for real. And he has been years of this. And it's always the same story. He came out, he got beat up for a while. Him and
David Wilcock. Yeah.
they went through a big thrashing for years of being considered phonies or whatever. He wasn't, though. He was just tied on the train, wasn't he, with him?
It seems
I
like
don't know how that worked, but
it's hard to know
So
what's
they were
disinformation and
Beat up
what's
just
real.
by other
yeah,
ufologists.
yes,
or
right.
Yes.
They took a big dip down.
the
David
feed.
Wilcox was a monster on Ancient Aliens. And he had a lot to say, but I think a lot of personality got in there, and they were kind of doing this two-man routine on stage, and it started to kind of feel hokey and phony, and Dave was trying to be too funny, and everything just felt fake.
Mm-hmm.
But Corey Goode still managed kind of this little more low-key vibe about him. But I think he's got a new following now, quite a big following.
I'd say so.
And He seems very believable. As radical as what he's talking about. It's fascinating.
I'd like to talk to somebody who, not only believes that this has happened to them or
Has
whatever,
been there.
but is also got the energy that portray 'cause I could tell you that I went to Dairy Queen yesterday, and you're going to believe me without even thinking
Yeah.
about it. You know what I mean? Because I've got the energy that I've never lied to you about
Right,
anything.
right,
So
right.
there's no reason for you not to.
I wouldn't even look for holes.
But if
Right.
I was like, you know what, guys, I was actually kind of holding off on telling you this stuff, but all that shit happened to me too. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just to hear somebody actually believe,
Right.
just tell it like this actually happened.
Right.
In the flesh, not just watching the shit on TV.
Yeah.
That is one of the biggest challenges because the first time I heard about this stuff from Corey Goode in 2014, I was blown away and I sort of lapped it up. I was like, oh, yeah, more, right? And then there got to a point where I was like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe this is all a propaganda campaign. Maybe this is all seeding, information so that when the real thing comes, I recognize it and I acquiesce to the narrative. That's called grooming, guys. And I'm not suggesting at all that Corey Goode is grooming us, but I'm saying it's a possibility that he is.
Yeah.
And that
But grooming for what again?
exactly, but still some of the things that he shares are very fantastical.
Yeah.
Like some of the the races of beings that he's talked about, they have personalities. He's given them names. He's given them identities. He's talked about their role in the universe.
Which isn't that much different than George Lucas.
No, that's my point.
Well, but George Lucas isn't telling you that all this shit is real.
Right. That's what. Yeah,
That's
but
the
it's
biggest
still like
difference.
science fiction.
But
Maybe
Corey
this
Good
person
is
just
telling
hasn't
you
picked-
it's real.
He
right,
is
but maybe
for
it's
real.
just a really good imagination.
I
He's coming-
agree
That's
with
what-
you. That's
right.
my point.
And that's the place to go at it
That's
from.
my
But
point.
I don't know where it was for me, where I started turning over thinking, some of this actually could be real.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started, like, at least letting myself feel that, not buying into it, not saying it's all, but I just had such a better experience, a more vivid imagination with it. Because you're constantly knocking at that door every time you listen to these people. You're like, hey, are you bullshitting me? Hey, you bullshitting me? But when you just kind of like let it go and start listening to it, this guy believes it.
Yeah.
And like what Art Bell would say, I believe that you believe it.
Yes.
And I am 100% behind you.
So my
That was-
sightings were so non like emotional or anything that they could probably be passed off as something else. Like it wasn't the Phoenix Lights.
Right.
You know what I
Right,
mean? That
right.
would have been troubling,
Unbelievable
see.
what that was.
you know, but because so many people saw them at the same time.
And how huge that fucking thing
A
was.
mass
Yeah.
delusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was also filmed. So, I mean,
I'm not saying it was. I was just using that
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
terminology. But yes,
It
I
is
mean,
one of the reasons for explaining it.
Yeah.
Mass delusion
It
is like
is.
number 5 of
Yeah.
how they've tried to explain it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
You explain it away.
Right.
You mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. How they, yeah.
You know, we haven't dealt with one of the most fundamental questions that is usually the first go-to for the existence of extraterrestrials.
Right.
And that is, what does it do to our concept of religion
yeah
on our
that's-
planet? We haven't talked about that. And I'll start and then you guys weigh in. But generally, it pretty much, it just changes that notion of religion entirely when it's not an Earth-centric universe. And we've done that before when we've looked at the planets and the stars and we see that we're just one galaxy.
That's what's so
Many-
silly
one
about
neighborhood.
religion. It's like
It's why do you have to be right? Why is there
Yeah.
only one way to view this? The answer is there isn't. Can you still believe in a God and believe in other planets that have different species? I think those things are not exclusive. I think those things can coexist. And that's why it's so irritating that we're not being told the truth. It feels as if things are being kept from us as a not just in America, but all over the planet. And I'm just tired of being treated like a child when it comes to this.
it's all perception.
Yes.
I think that no matter how, like when it comes to disclosure, no matter how many little cookies they're going to give to us,
Right.
up until they actually say this is happening, nobody, like, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I believe in aliens, I believe in aliens, I believe.
Right.
But I'll tell you right now that if something came and was right here, people would lose their shit.
They probably would.
Certainly,
And-
including
and-
me.
and-
I'd take a, for sure I would lose my
whole
shit. Yep.
cities would be burned down.
Well, not that, but I just.
I'm telling you,
Take me
that's,
a minute,
that's
right.
what would happen.
You guys saw War of the Worlds, right? The
Right.
movie
Yeah.
as
That's-
well as the
Series.
broadcast. Back
There was a
in-
series too
Oh, was
recently.
there?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Hillary Clinton being on Jimmy Kimmel saying, well, we call them UAPs now. It's like they're giving us these little
Yeah,
cookies.
yeah.
If they was just to come out and be like, or breadcrumbs or whatever,
cookies.
they're giving us something, thinking that, like, you know, eventually we're going to have to, like, just admit. But
You can never admit
once
all
they
the
do
bullshit.
that,
Yeah.
once they do that, people are going to lose their fucking
Yeah.
minds.
But you know, it's funny because I can't remember who it was. Pope somebody.
Yes,
the-
it's
the simple minds
Benedict.
that are gonna-
Benedict.
Pope Benedict.
Yeah.
Came out and said, if they are, that's great. It still works, and it still all works.
Is that why
You
he
could-
was only there a hot minute?
Probably, but it still works.
I don't know.
If you know, God isn't just a God to us. I certainly asked this pastor once. I was doing this big mural for him, and we were chatting back and forth. I said, "Well, what about ETs?" And he's like, "Who's to say God didn't create those too?" I mean, we are. You're right. We're so earthly centric. We live in that. What I don't
Space for
buy
it.
is that there was one guy to tell us the whole story. I think it's a lot more, and what he looked like, and we're so locked into the physical
white
part
dude
of it.
in the sky.
It makes just as much sense to me to think that it's called source.
Yeah.
There is a source.
I'm in a group on Facebook that is this CNC like laser stuff, and I see this guy he's always showing his whatever, and he does these engravings on slate, and he's been doing all these like
Bible
Jesus,
verses?
no, like
Oh.
Jesus, like pictures of
Oh.
Jesus as like this white guy, like the old white guy, like crying
With
and
the
stuff.
hair. Oh.
I'm like, dude,
It's kind of like that ark in Kentucky, Noah's Ark.
people love that shit though.
They do.
You know what? I wouldn't mind going. I've never been there and seen it, but I,
I
wouldn't
think
mind
we
going.
should go.
That could be another field trip.
Noah's Ark
Yeah.
of Kentucky.
You never heard of that?
I'd love to do that. No,
Somebody,
He
some
did a
church.
replica from apparently from the
Well, how
Bible.
big are we talking here?
It's actual size,
Well,
right?
nobody knows how big it
Well,
really was,
nobody knows.
but it's like
actual size, right?
it's like fucking couple
Football fields?
yeah, a couple of football fields,
It's pretty big.
and it's got like stalls in it for fucking giraffes and everything.
Yeah, whatever you need.
Oh, that would be fun to go.
I think we got to go see it.
all cultures talk about a massive flood.
Oh, it
Every
happened.
culture, everywhere.
Well, it happened.
Beyond the Bible,
it did
was-
happen.
yeah.
The floods
nobody-
definitely happened.
Yeah.
It's just, did they survive in that kind of an ark, or was it a spaceship?
Or was it an ark of seeds? I mean, was it an ark of eggs and seeds and sperm and stuff?
Or
Couldn't
was
have
it
been.
just the best swimmers.
Right? Yeah. It was a giant dinghy.
Some people think that the planet has started over more than once.
Yeah, I could see it.
I mean, when you
It's
see
had
that
to have.
there's,
It's been here forever.
it has, and
Yeah.
there's just no trace of certain cultures.
Yeah,
Right.
it's inner Earth.
You know that
Right.
Easter Island culture?
Oh, no.
I don't know the name of it. There was a corresponding culture in sort of like South America, I think. And they both had similar characters, the way they wrote their language. Nobody speaks their language. No one's been able to translate it. They have evidence that it existed. And these cultures that were planets apart, like half a planet apart, had very similar writing. And they don't know what it meant.
What do they
You
call
say
it?
that about the pyramids. They were
But
made in.
what do they call those
uh,
those things like the pyramids? Like was it time? It's not a timestamp, but it's like
Oh, I don't know what you're referring to.
oh man, it's a time something. Anyway,
It's
All
a
right.
mind fuck.
well, it's like this is something that happened, and in like
It's
like
an artifact.
all cultures seem to have to build something,
hmm
and it's like
Monolith.
no, yeah, but it's like
It's like a
it's like a
monolith.
time. Now that we're looking back, it's like here's where this happened, here's where that happened, here's where
Sure,
that happened.
sure.
What if it all is like I was mentioning earlier, that everything is kind of being revealed as time goes on? The more we can do sonar to get through the ground to find the thing, to even if the government that keeps it all away from us, it's still something that was revealed in this new technology.
Well-
and what if all these things are like little time capsules that are supposed to kind of disintegrate and be
yes.
revealed over time?
Yes, I think that's true. Like Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't the ancient civilization conversation,
That
but
place blows my
that
mind.
Göbekli Tepe is mind blowing, and it's an example of what you just said. That because of sonar, because of other tech, we now can see things that have been put over with sand or earth,
Intentionally.
intentionally covered
Intentionally
over,
buried
but
it with
now they're being revealed.
Which
to
is
your
exactly
point.
the way it
So
should
Have
be.
you
It's
ever
the
heard
time.
of the Eye of the Sahara? It's like actually called like Ricat structure, the Rishat structure, but it's called the Eye of the Sahara, and like they say that there's theories that this is where the Garden of Eden was,
Oh, that's trippy.
Well,
and you
It's-
can look at it in Google Images and see like roads that go into the sea. I mean, you want to see trippy.
and then Babylon was in Iraq, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people say that.
And then
Eden.
Atlantis it was Antarctica
Mm-hmm.
before the flood.
There's an
And
interesting
the
one.
pole shift, the flash freeze.
Yeah.
The pole
And we're
shift.
supposedly due for a pole shift, which
Oh,
would just
yes.
crush the shit out of us.
I
And a
can
solar
imagine.
flare.
Yeah.
But but one thing, back to what we were talking about with the kind of things are revealed as they should be.
Yes.
Well, Antarctica's a great example.
It sure
So
is.
with climate, with global warming, things are melting. What are they melting and what are they revealing? And maybe, I mean,
Stuff.
we certainly are pieces of shit that are killing this world. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about it. What if we're supposed to kill the world a bit, reveal something,
And then change.
and then make the world even better and, better
then,
and better?
And then change.
I
And-
don't know.
Well, what if the solar flash is that too? Because there's no question the flood reshaped the
Yeah.
planet. And maybe that needed to happen too. Maybe there was, too much degradation of whatever. But maybe the solar flash helps us ascend. I don't know. I'm making this up. I have no idea. But it's these things happen. There's
For a reason.
cycles. Yes, there's cycles.
Unfortunately, it's kind of morbid too,
But we
because
can't
we're
know.
talking about a flood that just kills off everybody. Solar, we had a real solar flash. It would just cripple.
It would cook everyone
Like
on
90%
the
of the
surface.
people would die,
On the
right.
surface.
Yeah,
Again, needing that arc.
right. We better start making that thing.
Let's start making that air arc, but this time it's a space.
I got a Jeep Compass.
It's a spaceship.
I'm going to start with that. I'm going to build it. That will be the hub.
It's a spaceship this
Mhm.
time.
Are we getting there? Are we wrapping it up?
Yeah, see, that's the Eye of Sahara, and then go.
Do you know this thing? Have you seen this?
I don't believe I have.
You don't have it up?
No, I can't. But like,
Eye of the Sahara.
look,
Sahara Desert?
right there it is.
The Eye of the Sahara.
Whoa, it looks like a real eyeball. Holy shit, it does.
Are you saying it's
Whoa.
an ancient civilization
Heard that.
Some people say that.
with roads and things? I mean, that's highly likely.
And then you look out into the ocean right here. And look at these weird. Like, look at that. Look, there's that right there. What the fuck is that?
Is this stuff we're just now seeing, or?
No, people.
Why is it
This is the first we've heard of it.
Oh.
Well, the interwebs have been marvelous.
that's true.
I think part of why we're able to have these conversations is that each of us did our own rabbit hole
Yeah.
jumping.
Yeah.
And I've been at this 10 years. And I know you guys have been at it a long time
Yeah.
too. And
You're right, it's a series of rabbit holes, and then
It
we all
is.
came up at one little rabbit
We
hole,
did.
and like, hey, you been there too? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah,
Let's go.
let's go talk about
We
this.
go back into the rabbit hole together.
All
yeah.
the people I talk to about it are sick of hearing it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you guys aren't sick
There's
of
got
hearing
to be
it
somebody
yet.
out there that wants to listen to us. They aren't all going to be sick of us.
They can't all be sick of us. So let's share.
We're gonna call this one episode 0. Most
Okay.
people that ever hear this will probably have listened to other episodes already
Yes.
and have gone backwards.
Yes.
But we've been having these conversations bi-monthly for about 4 months now,
Yeah.
Yes.
and we'll actually like tell the history of how it came about and everything in different episodes or whatever. But each of us basically just wanted a place to be able to talk about this shit because nobody else in our circles gives a fuck. So
Right.
So this is why we're here, and we decided
right.
just to open it up for others to listen to and to comment on and to become a part of it. So
And it'll evolve. It'll become its own
it'll become its
entity.
own. Yeah. So
Well, thanks for listening, everybody.